Hey nerds, Bevan here, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while because I've been sick, but I'm back and I'm here to talk about X-Men Apocalypse. X-Men Apocalypse has been in theaters for a few weeks now. It's been getting lots of reviews, it's been getting a lot of criticism, but I finally saw it last night, so I thought I would give you the good and the bad of X-Men Apocalypse. First off, I want to make it clear, I really liked this movie. I did not love it. It was not the top of the X-Men food chain, if you will. I much prefer Days of Future Past, X-Men 2. First Class is pretty close to being a... This is right around First Class, so it's, you know, third or the fourth best of the series of 8, which includes X-Men 1 to 3, First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, Wolverine Origins, and The Wolverine. So those are the 8. First, let's talk about the good parts of this movie. For one, I love the fuck out of the Magneto story arc. Let's also make it very abundantly clear there will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want shit ruined for you, move on and then come back later. But the Magneto story arc goes as follows, because of course this movie is 10 years after the events portrayed in Days of Future Past. So Magneto has moved on, he's gone into hiding, if you will. He's working at a steel mill factory kind of thing somewhere in Europe. He's got a wife, he's got a very adorable little daughter. They live a very simple life. One day, some shit's going down, he uses his powers to save a man's life. And then he starts to freak out because, you know, some people might have seen him do it. And, you know, he's, after the events of Days of Future Past, he's a wanted criminal for all the stuff that he did in Washington. So he runs home that night. Him and his wife, they're packing up all their stuff, they're moving, they say, go find the daughter, we're gonna go right now. Turns out a bunch of police officers have come, they've grabbed the daughter out in the woods, and, you know, one thing leads to another. She starts freaking out, the daughter starts freaking out, I should say. She starts making birds do all these crazy things, the birds are attacking the police officers, so obviously this girl's got some mutant powers as well. And one of the cops has a bow and arrow, because no metal around Magneto, right? He, for some reason, had it really tight, all of a sudden lets it go. The arrow goes through the daughter into the heart of the mother, and Magneto loses the 2 people in his life he had left who actually gave a shit about him. So it's really easy to see why he jumped ship and joined Apocalypse when Apocalypse is like, I will give you all the power, you will bring down all the human beings. And then, of course, eventually Magneto sees the light, he helps the X-Men defeat Apocalypse, you know, thus concluding his redemption arc of this movie, because he always has to have one in all the movies. And to be honest, this is the best Magneto story and performance out of all of the movies so far. Fassbender has been killing it, the entire trilogy, and he really shone in this movie. Shined in this movie? He was really good in this movie. I wouldn't be a Canadian YouTuber if I didn't feature Tim Hortons in one of my videos. Let's talk about the main villain, the namesake of this movie. Let's talk about Apocalypse. I'm a big fan of what they did at the beginning of this movie with the opening and the origin story of Apocalypse. Of course, like 5,000 years ago in Egypt, he was doing his damn thing because he was the first mutant. They revered him as a god. He was doing some crazy transference of consciousness where he would survive over time by transferring his consciousness to another mutant body. And then in this opening sequence, a couple of like soldiers tried to fight back. They tried to destroy the body while he was unconscious. The whole pyramid that they were doing this ritual ceremony in came tumbling down, and he was trapped underneath it for 5,000 years. Now, I know I didn't really go super in depth with this, but I couldn't even do it justice by trying to describe it to you. It worked so well for me and built up so much. I just thought it was really well done. And as I will talk about later with the bad, it might have been the only well done thing Apocalypse did the whole fucking movie. The last thing I want to touch on with the good is the inclusion, the introduction, and the usage of Jean Grey, Scott Summers, and Kurt Wagner, of course Jean Grey, Cyclops, and Nightcrawler. This is your new core crop of X-Men for future films. I'm sure they'll get their own trilogy. but I thought their inclusion was really, really well done. The introduction of Cyclops and his origin where he has a headache in class and eventually just goes to the bathroom and fucking Psy-beams some bully was awesome. They brought back Alex Summers, Havoc, as the older brother, and I was really wondering if they would make that connection between the two, because I don't really recall ever hearing him referred to as Alex Summers. It was always Alex or Havoc or like whatever it was. But I'm glad they actually made that connection, and they made it work. Like, it didn't seem forced at all. Alex brings him to the school where Jean Grey is already there and established as like this mutant that the other students are afraid of. She has very powerful abilities that she can't quite control yet because she's so young, but that's why she's at Xavier's school for gifted youngsters, so she can learn to develop and control all these powers that she has. Nightcrawler's origin was a little bit weird. You just kind of had him thrown into like this mutant death match, cage match with Angel, and he won. They were eventually broken out by Mystique, and Mystique took him to the school. That introduction was kind of meh, but his usage throughout the movie, like, they made him a good character that you actually kind of cared about. It was really good. But unfortunately, with the good must come the bad, because while this movie is really awesome and I enjoyed it quite a bit, it's not perfect by any means. Like I said before, Apocalypse's origin opening montage thing, really, really cool, but that's kind of all he did up until the very last, boss battle of the movie. I didn't really think he was that much of a threat throughout the movie. He did like a cool thing here or there, but essentially all he did was like amplify the powers of his 4 Horsemen followers. His followers, of course, being Magneto, Psylocke, Storm, and Angel. Like when he met Storm in Africa, she had some kind of stuff going on, but he amplified her power so that she could, rain down thunder and lightning and could really start to develop into the Storm we're all familiar with. But he initiated that. When he meets Angel, Angel's had his wings burned in the death cage match, so he gives him some steel wings. And that's pretty cool. When he meets Psylocke, well, he doesn't really amplify anything for her because she was pretty badass to begin with. When he hooks up with Magneto, though, that's kind of when you really see what Apocalypse is able to do when he's amplifying these powers. Because Magneto literally starts to like pull all the metal out of the earth at the Auschwitz, where his family, of course, was murdered before his eyes. But all the emotion that Magneto felt in this setting and all of the power that he started to feel from that emotion, and he started to feed off of it like a Sith in Star Wars or something. That was all Magneto. Sure, Apocalypse was like, yes, my child, you will do this and you'll be really awesome and stuff, but I'm not gonna do a whole lot to help. Like, Apocalypse just kind of spent the whole movie traveling around gathering his followers, but he didn't really do anything. And then eventually he like somehow broke into Cerebro from like halfway across the world and started to find all these other mutants and humans and concocting his plan of what he wanted to do. But then he had to use Psylocke to transport him to the mansion to kidnap Xavier. And he had to just like really rely on his team to really do the things he wanted to do. So like at no point through the movie, discluding the final battle, because he was pretty killer in that, I just didn't see him as like a huge threat. So I was a failure in this movie. And before I mention how these new X-Men over here were used really well, all these other new characters were wasted. Jubilee had like 3 lines, because apparently she had her big mall scene cut. And like, as a 90s kid who grew up watching the X-Men cartoon, I like Jubilee. I have a Jubilee statue in my living room right now. So she was wasted. She did nothing in this movie. Angel did nothing in this movie. He had like his death cage match, he got his wings, and then he died. Like, they killed Angel off in his first reappearance in this reboot. I don't know what it is, but they wasted Angel, who's actually a really cool character, especially when he was Archangel, the Angel of Death for Apocalypse. And the other character that they wasted was Psylocke. They had like a fairly big name over here in Olivia Munn, And they just didn't really do anything with her at all. Like, she had some really cool moments, especially in the fight scene where she was fighting Beast and a couple other X-Men. But she never really developed in any way. She was never more than like the really hot, badass ninja, which I guess is fine as an introductory role. So I kind of hope they bring her back in the next X-Men movie where she's like a real opposing force for the new team. But if they don't, then she's still kind of a waste. They had enough in this movie where they can like build off of it in future movies, but they actually need to do that in order for her to not be a waste. This is kind of the first time since X-Men The Last Stand where the X-Men have had like an end of the world type threat. And in both cases, in Last Stand and in Apocalypse, they kind of failed with that. I think the X-Men movies would be much better suited to just focusing on like a specific mission. Like in First Class, they were recruiting X-Men. In Days of Future Past, they were specifically setting out to stop Mystique from killing Trask. But when they have to focus on like an Omega level threat to the world, it just doesn't seem to work in this franchise. So I think going forward, they'd be better suited to like focus on, you know, small, intimate missions with like a very specific key focus. But I look forward to future movies because I think this new crop of kids they got is going to do really well, especially Sophie Turner, who was killer as Jean Grey / the Phoenix at the end, spoiler alert, and the girl who played Storm, I thought she was really good too. But that's what I thought were the good and the bad of X-Men Apocalypse, so I want you to comment below what your favorite moment was. Was it the Quicksilver scene? Was it the Phoenix Force scene? Tell me below what it was. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you really like this video, hit that subscribe button because I'm putting out nerdy videos every single week. Visit sasspodcast.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at BevinBoychuk. And until next time, folks, I am out like a light.